Netflix's 72 Hours builds itself as a fast-paced crime comedy filled with bachelor party chaos, hilarious misunderstandings, and unexpected danger. On the surface, the movie promises wild entertainment, but by the time the credits roll, it becomes clear that the story was never just about criminals, missing money, or surviving an outrageous weekend in Miami. The ending reveals that the biggest battle was taking place inside Joe all along. His journey begins as a middle-aged executive desperately trying to prove that he still belongs in a world that seems obsessed with youth. He believes success depends on speaking like the younger generation, following every new trend, and convincing everyone around him that he has not fallen behind. That fear quietly drives almost every decision he makes throughout the movie. Then everything changes when what should have been a carefree bachelor party spirals into a dangerous criminal situation. By the time the story reaches its climax aboard a luxury yacht, Joe and the rest of the group unexpectedly find themselves trapped in the middle of a conflict involving a briefcase full of missing cash. The situation becomes increasingly dangerous even though none of them actually stole the money. They are simply victims of a series of misunderstandings that continue escalating until there seems to be no easy way out. This is where the film takes an unexpected turn. Instead of transforming Joe into a traditional action hero, the movie allows him to solve the crisis using the skills he has spent an entire career developing. Rather than relying on physical strength or dramatic fight scenes, Joe overwhelms the criminals with endless corporate language, confusing marketing terminology, and business presentations. It is an approach that feels completely ridiculous on the surface, yet it perfectly fits both his personality and the movie's comedic tone. While the criminals struggle to understand what Joe is talking about, Jennifer and the younger members of the bachelor party take advantage of the distraction. They begin live streaming everything that is happening on the yacht, exposing the confrontation to the public. That decision completely changes the situation. Instead of remaining hidden, the criminals suddenly lose control as the chaos unfolds in front of an audience. The confusion created by the live stream helps dismantle their operation, allowing the group to escape the dangerous situation without Joe suddenly becoming an unrealistic action superstar. It is a clever payoff because the movie never abandons the personality of its main character. Joe succeeds by being himself. That idea becomes even more important after the action finally comes to an end. The emotional heart of the ending arrives when Nick admits that inviting Joe to the bachelor party was never entirely accidental. Throughout most of the film, it appears as though Joe simply found himself caught in the middle of someone else's adventure. However, Nick eventually reveals there was a deeper reason behind bringing him along. To Nick, Joe represented everything he feared about adulthood. Joe seemed trapped in an endless cycle of work, responsibilities, pressure, and routine. From Nick's perspective, growing older meant losing excitement, freedom, and spontaneity. Marriage appeared to be the beginning of that life, and Joe looked like living proof of where that path would lead. Nick hoped Mason would see Joe and begin questioning whether marriage was really the future he wanted. It is one of the most surprising emotional revelations in the entire film because it completely changes how earlier scenes can be interpreted. Joe was never just another guest. He was meant to be a warning. Yet the irony is that the bachelor party produces the exact opposite result. Instead of confirming Nick's fears, Joe completely changes everyone's understanding of what adulthood actually means. Throughout the weekend, Joe experiences genuine adventure, forms unexpected friendships, survives dangerous situations, and rediscovers parts of himself that he thought had disappeared years ago. By the end of the story, he demonstrates that growing older does not mean life becomes smaller. It simply becomes different. Adventure does not disappear because someone becomes an adult. Instead, adulthood becomes about choosing meaningful relationships, accepting responsibility, and finding people worth sharing life's experiences with. That realization transforms not only Joe, but also Nick. Nick finally understands that marriage does not represent the end of freedom. It represents the beginning of a new chapter. His fear was never truly about getting married. It was about becoming someone who no longer enjoyed life. Joe proves that those two things are not connected. One of the strongest aspects of the ending is how it explores the relationship between different generations. For much of the movie, Joe spends his time trying to imitate younger people. He wants to understand every trend, every meme, every piece of slang, and every cultural reference because he believes that appearing young is the only way to remain relevant. The younger characters also make assumptions. Many of them believe Joe represents an outdated generation that simply cannot understand the modern world. The ending quietly dismantles both assumptions. During the yacht confrontation, everyone contributes something valuable. Joe provides experience, calm thinking, and professional communication skills. The younger members contribute technological knowledge, quick thinking, and the ability to use social media to expose the criminals. Neither generation succeeds alone. Only by working together do they overcome the crisis. That message becomes one of the film's strongest themes. Success comes through cooperation rather than competition. The younger generation does not replace the older one. The older generation does not dismiss the younger one. Each has strengths the other lacks. That balance is what ultimately saves everyone. Joe's personal transformation continues after he returns home. Earlier in the movie, he had invested enormous energy into creating an advertising campaign designed specifically to appeal to younger audiences. His strategy depended on copying trends and trying to sound like someone he was not. After everything he experiences in Miami, he completely abandons that approach. Instead of chasing youth, Joe creates a campaign built around genuine human connection. It is a subtle moment, but it perfectly completes his character arc. The man who spent the entire movie pretending to be someone else finally realizes his greatest strength has always been his own experience. Authenticity becomes more valuable than imitation. That lesson extends beyond Joe's career. It reflects the message of the entire film. People do not become meaningful by endlessly following trends. They become meaningful through honesty, relationships, and embracing who they truly are. The final scenes reinforce this idea with a wonderful touch of humor. Joe remains part of the bachelor party group chat, but he still cannot understand many of the memes and slang the younger members continue sharing. Earlier in the movie, that would have frustrated him because he desperately wanted to fit in. Now it no longer matters. He laughs, stays involved, and enjoys the friendship without feeling pressured to pretend he understands everything. It is a small moment that says a great deal. Joe no longer needs validation from younger people. He no longer feels the need to perform. He simply accepts himself while remaining connected to those around him. That acceptance represents his greatest victory. Looking at the ending as a whole, the yacht showdown provides the exciting action audiences expect, but it is only the surface-level conclusion. The real ending belongs to the emotional journeys of Joe and Nick. Joe discovers that experience is an advantage rather than a weakness. Nick learns that adulthood is not something to fear. The younger members recognize the value of wisdom and life experience. Together they leave Miami with a completely different understanding of themselves and one another. That is why the ending feels satisfying. It does not rely solely on explosions or criminal arrests. Instead, it delivers meaningful character growth while still providing an entertaining finale. 72 Hours ultimately argues that life is not about staying forever young. It is about remaining open to change, building sincere relationships, and appreciating the different perspectives people bring into our lives. By the time the credits roll, Joe has not become younger. He has become more comfortable with who he already was. That simple realization becomes the film's most powerful message and the reason its ending leaves such a lasting impression.